We are still here broadcasting from Bachelors Grove, and this is the first annual picnic. It's to help raise awareness for restoration of the Grove and also promote it. It's one of the most historic and most beautiful, not to mention fabulously haunted places in the area. With me today, I have the pleasure and the privilege of having Pete Crapia with me.
That would be
said it wrong.
That's okay. It's Crapia. Everybody gets it wrong.
You know what? I was fine until you told me
saying,
the wrong way.
Right. Crapia would be the inappropriate wrong way to do it. So
okay, so what is the right way again?
Crapia.
Crapia.
Yeah.
And what did I say?
Kind of like a fish. I don't know, but you've said it similar to other people as well.
I butchered it.
Okay.
That's
cool.
Not that anyone's drinking any wine here today, but, we'll just have a little more, right?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, it's an alcohol-free zone, but you can drink over by Rubio Woods, where the trolley's been going. So everybody's saying, I should probably be speaking into the mic better, huh?
Actually, you're good.
Am I?
You sound real good.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Don't look around. Nobody's pointing and laughing except the 5 people behind you. I'm kidding.
And the wind. Lost the banner.
No, not yet. Not yet. So, Pete, this was a huge undertaking.
It's fun, though. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. I've always wanted to do something like this. And, I always wanted to just show people what a lot of this is about. Sometimes they only see so much on the internet, and they don't see the rest. And so getting the trolley, getting the, the picnic area going, really lets them expand out all in one day to get an idea.
It's absolutely amazing. The Grove Restoration Project has been going for 2
Well, it started in 2000 more officially, but I guess 96 was my first visit. And it was a couple of years after that I wanted to do some things.
Okay.
But once I got the websites up in 2000, that's when I thought, we're going to try something, see what happens, get some people together, start with some basic cleaning. And it just kind of developed into this higher interest, in the public, where let's do this, let's do that, why don't we do this? And so that's great, and we're not even out there sometimes, and people are just out there now cleaning up, bringing garbage. Yeah, so the public is doing its own thing, and we don't have to be worried about the county coming out all the time, but their help is always greatly appreciated. So,
what made you decide to take this on?
Which part, the picnic or the whole Grove thing in general?
You can answer both. This is your gig.
Well, I mean, Bachelors Grove for me, when I first heard about it, I was, I was living in Orland Park at the time, and I went through some events that were paranormal in nature. And so when I first heard about this place, I happened to be in this area, and I said, well, let's, come show me what this guy's talking about. He's on a CB radio, hanging out at some parking lot alongside a pond, and which used to be by the cemetery. So we pull up there at night. Apparently it was okay to do that. And I just see it in the dark, and a buddy of mine tells me, well, there's some ghost light. They didn't have any real stories. Let's see it in the daytime. So I went there in the daytime, and I brought this video camera along.
Okay.
And I tried to hold on to the banner.
Oh, I can't have it knocking you out. First I mispronounced your name, and now my banner whacks you in the head. How nice am I?
No, you're cool. So I bring this camera back there, and I'm not thinking paranormal.
Right.
I'm just thinking, because I'm a camera geek then,
right.
I just had it, So I got this big old VHS camcorder on my shoulder with that black and white viewfinder thing sticking out of my eye.
Sweet.
And I'm just getting shots, and at one point I'm filming this one area, and it's by the Fulton headstone in view, the big gray headstone out there. And I thought I saw something moving around. And I, tilt my head, look with 2 eyes, and I don't see anything. Put my eye back on the camera, looking, still, see anything, so I just kind of dismiss it. And I get home, and my buddy, who's with me at that time, we're reviewing the tape, and just for whatever, and he goes, what the F is that? And I'm like, what? He goes, that, and he runs up to the screen, he's pointing at this thing. And you just see something, and, for the listeners, it was probably, let me guess, 10 inches long or something, or longer.
Okay.
And really thick and tall, probably another 5 or 6. It's like this black solid object. And think of like 2 magnets and you're bouncing a magnet on another. And it's going back and forth and back and forth. You just watch this thing.
Really trying to get your attention.
Well, I don't know about that. But I mean, it was so big and so obvious and so dark black that looking with my eyes, you couldn't have missed that.
Okay.
But obviously it got captured on film.
Okay.
And I must have just caught a glimpse of this when I was filming, which caught my
Right.
attention. But at one point, before I pan out, this thing moves out of view and goes around the big headstone. So now you got a different perspective. Some people think, well, is it just something moving around the stone? No. Now you see that whole thing. Nothing's holding it up, and it's moving around by itself, like levitating, basically.
Okay.
And that really caught my attention. And I said to myself, this place might actually hold some answers to the weird stuff I grew up with.
Okay.
And I had a fascination with local history. So that's when I just started getting more involved with looking into it.
Okay.
And it actually was pretty hard. There wasn't really much out there. So, when eventually I knew where to look and how to compile the stuff, I decided to do the website.
Okay.
And I thought, I need to get a hold of family members of those buried there. I need to get a hold of people that just visited there back in the day. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why. And it worked. Putting the website out there got me in touch with a lot of people. In fact, at the picnic today, we have one of the Schmidts. And the Schmidts, they used to own the property surrounding Bachelors Grove Cemetery. They're the ones who bought it, or the Forest Preserve bought it from them. The evidence were there before the Schmidts, but for those of you, you want more information, you can go to bachelorsgrove.com, and the history section, you can probably learn more about that. But, it's, getting in touch with these people and just talking with them, it's been absolutely amazing, and it's very, like a high wealth of information. I mean, stuff you just will never find, in a book or something, because they're just personal. It's
Oral
very personal.
tradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of got started.
It sounds like you really didn't have much of a choice. You sort of were in the right place at the right time.
I was.
And it kind of took you along on this journey.
I had no idea this place was popular. To me, it was just this little cemetery in the woods.
It had been vandalized and abused for decades.
And, and it broke my heart. I'm thinking, back in the day about this one story, when I used to hike the woods around here, we had this map. And a buddy of mine, his father's like, noticed this one spot in the map. It turned out to be Bachelors Cemetery. He goes, you guys never go there. Don't you dare ever go there. It's a dangerous place and stuff like that. Those stories kind of come back. I think about it like, I guess it was bad at some point. People did do a lot of vandalism. A lot of weird things went on. And today it's much different. I think it's a lot more tame. It's not as dangerous as I think most people either remember or have been made to believe. Okay. So it is safe and it's nice, and that's something I wanted to change too, because even I was feeling nervous going out there when you got police officers telling you that you can't go out there when it's forest preserve land around it. And
because it's not safe.
And, they just didn't want all the hassles, the phone calls. I mean, I think at a certain point they knew that it was okay. It wasn't, like, horrible.
Okay.
Maybe way back in the day, but, back when I was going, like, 96, that's one of the things I wanted to change. Like, this place is not that supposedly dangerous, and we're allowed to go here, and it's very legal, and
it's beautiful.
And now it's like there's like a rebirth, I feel, of some kind. They can just go back there, not worry, enjoy it. All the vandals, all the people, all the that want to do something bad, they don't want everybody around looking at what they're doing. So it's actually been a good thing to draw that kind of traffic in, that foot traffic, regardless of what maybe some officers they don't like all the people running across the street. I guess that is a little unsafe, but
different kind of a nuisance, I suppose.
Yeah, so I'm kind of rambling on. Did you have any specific?
Well, I wanted to know about the picnic. I was thrilled when I saw that not only had you published or publicized the cleanups. I mean, you really have done a huge effort in the last couple of years since I became aware of it. I've seen a huge change in going out to the cemetery and a lot more. I don't want to say that there wasn't respect before, but almost a newfound pride. Pride in a good thing, that's being reflected in the location. And I was just tickled to see that you had spearheaded such an enormous event. I want to talk to you about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's a little.
He's blushing for those of you that can't see him.
Yeah, right. I think I'm just like your average Joe. Honestly, anybody could have probably done this. It just took, I guess, a deeper passion or something. But to spearhead the picnic and get this going, it's always been, like I say, it's always been something I wanted to do, and just for fun. And in the scheme of things, it really isn't that tiresome.
You've got amazing help out here.
Look what we got here. We got the Grim Reaper. Reaper
totally
Madness.
Scared. Reaper Madness. That's what, 8 foot tall?
A little distracted here, but
no, that's okay.
Yeah, all the cameras are coming out.
So you've got food. You've got
ton of food, ton of drinks.
Pavilion.
Nice big old grill, 2 fireplaces blazing. That I hope the Forest Preserve does not close. If you're hearing me, please don't take our fireplaces away. They are very safe.
We have no fire.
Well, we can have the fire, but not if they put bricks in front of it. That's what I'm hearing. So I'm going to be very disappointed next year if they close off our fireplaces. But
so next year, you're talking about next year. We forgot. We've got trolleys going out to the Grove.
Yeah, we have a trolley. Thanks to Ursula Bielski, who is,
Isn't she a doll?
She is a sweetheart.
Oh, goodness.
When I brought her up here we're at technically Tinley Creek Woods, which is right next door to Bachelors Grove Woods. And when I brought her here one day and we were just chilling out talking about stuff, I told her about what I'd like to see one day, what I always want to try and do. And she just decided right then and there, we're going to do it. We're just going to do it.
Tenacious, isn't she?
Why are you waiting?
I know, right?
You know, I'm like, well, okay. She's like, well, I can get you a trolley set up. Well, you take care of this, she'll take care of that, and stuff like, so just a kind of a team effort. And
beautiful.
I got so excited about it. I'm like, yeah, okay, And I'm not feeling alone in it, because a lot of times, I do these things alone, and,
right.
And it's okay. I enjoy, like coordinating things.
Mm-hmm.
But something like this picnic is a pretty big deal, and it takes a lot to organize, and it's worth it. So, and she's been a blessing.
She is such a sweetheart. I am privileged enough to be able to call her friend as well. So she's a beautiful woman inside and
always
out.
glowing wherever she goes.
Yes. She's glowing right over there by the Grim Reaper. Look at her. It is Shadow.
Oh, yeah.
One of the other things that I learned about that I was not aware of until very recently is oh my gosh, here he comes. That was not an EVP, folks. Yeah. That was a voice from beyond. Is the Historical Society.
It's Tinley Park Historical Society, yeah. They got a lot of artifacts over there. They got things from some of the old headstones that were recovered.
Wow.
Unfortunately, it's only a few. And, but, they have some, then they had like a place called Bachelors Hall back in the day, so you can actually get a look at like the old roller skates that they used to have that say Bachelors Hall and Bachelors Grove on them, and the original plat map, but to the cemetery, showing where all the graves are. There's a lot of stuff.
Very
so this year, I guess in the spirit of what we were doing with the picnic, because I just wanted to basically just go over there and show them the stuff, they decided to do something from now until mid-November, having a specific like Bachelors Grove display. You don't have to walk around the whole society. They got a lot of stuff to read and look through. I didn't know they were pulling most of that off of my website, but that's okay, because I coordinated a lot of this too with Brad Bettenhausen. He's the president of the Historical Society there. Before I did the website, I went to him and I said, look, I don't want to reinvent the wheel here with the history.
Right.
So he wrote some of the articles that were scattered in kind of obscure, magazines of some kind, newsletters. And so we just kind of, I put it together and got his approval, and they're using that now for their pamphlets and things like that. So that's great.
How cool is that? You've made a huge difference.
Well, thank you. I get a sense of pride seeing it be worked out that way. It's like, yeah, I guess I did okay.
You did more than okay. For those people that are not regional, we do have some overseas listeners. Can you give us a brief history on Bachelors Grove?
Well, Bachelors Grove, started back in around the 1830s, and you might get some various, discrepancies with it, but basically the 1830s, and they like to flock around a lot of timber, stuff like that, to build their homes. So that's kind of why this place has so many big, thick oak trees. If you ever come out here, you'd see that, and it was a very small community that just kind of developed into this bigger thing. They ran a railroad nearby, and just one thing after another.
So this was a pioneer community.
This is a pioneer
where they settled.
Yeah, this is where they settled. And this, like you had Indian trails coming through here, major Indian settlements. Of course, how they got pushed away.
Yes.
And but some of their old, bigger trails as part of their major, like their Indian highway system. we would start to use them as their old roads, which happens to be actually one of them goes right past Bachelors Grove Cemetery. So that really helped, There's a lot I probably could talk about with the history, but
I know, and that's
my
why
brain
I
gets
asked the
so
question.
scattered. I could jump around. I can tell you stories like some of the settlers back in the day. They were being kicked off their land by the government. They agree with the government. If we maintain the land, keep it up, we get to keep it.
Pretty standard agreement.
Well, they came in and said, "Guess what? Forget it.
We changed our minds."
Yeah.
Fabulous.
And one interesting story is the Crandall family, who happens to be buried at the cemetery. Parts of them. They got up one day that the sheriff said, "Look, I'm kind of leaving town today, so you guys handle this matter on your own." Hint, hint. And they chased them out of town. But in between, when they were having their auctions, one of the Crandalls gets up there, says, give me 6 feet of space here. I'm going to lay out a corpse for anybody who places a bid." And actually ended up punching a preacher. So it was pretty bad back in the day as far as like trying to survive. I really admire the way, living out in these woods, imagine them cutting down the trees, building their homes from scratch, and just trying to just survive, and let alone just live a life,
They had an amazing life.
Yeah, they did.
And anything extra, and any of the china or anything that was, I know, how funny is that? Don't fear the reaper, here he comes.
Oh, yeah. So
the cemetery actually is one of the few remnants of a very important time in history.
Yeah, we have what's called Bachelors Grove Woods, and that's shows some things. But as far as structures and something a little bit more, I don't know if you want to call it tangible, to actually go out there and touch something, to see something more than just the prairie and the demon that's next to me speaking.
I know.
You should interview him.
I think he won't fit underneath our tarp. We'll have to go out there. But yeah, I think we should.
He dwarfs anybody standing there.
I know, right?
So, where were we?
Well, actually, we were talking about the lives of the pioneers and how this really was a keystone area in terms of Indian occupation, and it's sounding reminiscent of, the frontier, 1830s, and government support, lack of government support, those sorts of things. And as we were talking about that, Pete, it occurred to me the parallel between those people's lives and the work that they did and the work that you've been doing tirelessly for almost 20 years now.
Yeah, it's kind of a full-time job, but you don't get paid for it. But, it's a labor of love, so I'm okay with that. Watching people have fun with it. When I go out to the cemetery, I don't like to, let them know who I am. I just like to go on my walk, leave people alone, and I'll watch them with, papers printed off the internet. It happens to be, from my website or something. I get a real sense of pride out of that. They're really getting into it. They really enjoy this. And it was worth it. It was worth going through all that trouble, even if just to watch that happen.
And it's not just ghost hunters.
No, it's not. No,
it's
there's actually
history buffs and families.
You'll find that these days, around October you get a lot of ghost hunters, but throughout the year, most of them, they might have a slight interest in the paranormal, but they're not out there with meters or anything. They're just they want to go for a walk. They just want to walk around and talk about different things and see different things. Head down by the creek and maybe look at some really large fossils that, probably not many people get to see. But, it's just you can jump from one subject to the next when you're out there. And maybe even at the last moment, you might see something paranormal.
Yes.
The place does have its moments.
One of the thoughts that I'll leave you with, and this was one of my own thoughts that comes from being a history buff. I was one of those nerdy little kids that would always save my money and go to the library, used book sales, and I'd be getting, the books on ancient Egypt.
Oh, I was a library geek. Yeah, I know that feeling.
How to collect bugs and just stuff like that. And the first
we should
thought
pause
that,
for a station identification, huh?
This is the Grim Reaper cowering. I mean, Phil is cowering underneath the Grim Reaper, and he's actually acting like he's talking to a dog. No, because actually, your dead ass is next.
Well, we'll see. It's time for bed.
Yeah, I'm just getting ready to. You are dead wrong about that.
That's right. Yeah, I got the dog running in my head.
What I was trying to say to Pete, but before, I don't even know what to say.
And we're back.
Yeah, we're back, most of us, for the most part. What I was trying to say to Pete was when I first heard about the Bachelors Grove picnic, aside from the fact that I was tickled pink, that he was raising public awareness, and also, I think, in a way, thanking everybody for paying attention to his efforts over the years.
I do appreciate it. I really do appreciate it.
And I think that speaks volumes with what you have done here today in terms of unselfishly sharing all of this with everybody. But the little kid history geek in me goes back to the turn of the century when cemeteries were more of a family place, and on Sunday afternoons, families would go to the cemeteries and have picnics.
And that's the way it was back in the day at Bachelors Grove Cemetery.
And that's exactly what I thought. So I applaud you. I take my hat off to you, not only for the hard work that you've done, but also for bringing us back full circle to remembering not only where we came from, but the here and the now, and celebrating those two things together.
Thank you. And hopefully in spirit, the ones that used to actually have picnics at this grove back in the day with Bachelors Grove, with the churches and stuff, it's like bringing it back,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Recently I was contacted by somebody. He said he was 91 years old. I won't give his name right now, but me and him are going to sit down and have a talk. He used to clean up the cemetery and swim in the pond. And
swim in the pond.
He has family buried there, so he was responsible around 16, 17 years old. He used to park cars for Bachelor's Hall, and so me and him got a lot to talk about. Hopefully I can get that out to everybody. And he's got a lot of stories.
Well, I hope you're going to be writing a book.
It would be volumes. That's why you don't see any book right now. Because every day and every week, every month, there's something going on, something new, and it's like, and then when you do think about a book, you're like, well, then that's got to be put in there. So what are you going to do? Revise a book 2-3 times a year? It's so difficult. So I think it might have to come out in volumes of some kind.
You always have to start
It's a lot
somewhere.
of work. I'm not big on writing books, but I feel like there's a demand for it. People want it. And I think it should sit on a shelf one day. Because, one day I'm going to be 90 years old. And I'm not going to be here. So I don't want any of that information to be lost in time. Websites don't survive forever.
And oral tradition doesn't survive either.
No.
And even things like stone don't survive, clearly, from what you've seen.
No. Eventually, the earth turns, things change. So.
Pete, thank you for inviting us to your party.
Well, thank you for having me
We've had
here,
a wonderful
and
time.
thank you for coming.
Well, it's our pleasure. So, rock on, man.
Rock on.
We are Dead Speak Radio, and we are broadcasting from Bachelors Grove Cemetery. And with us, I have the distinct privilege and honor of meeting and interviewing one of the last members of the founding families of Bachelors Grove, Steve Schmidt. Thank you so very much for allowing me to meet you and sharing your family history with me, Steve.
No problem.
So you came all the way up here from down south.
From Houston, Texas, yeah.
Houston, Texas?
That's where my family's ended up now.
Okay.
And but I've been through here one time before.
Okay.
But didn't have a long time to spend here. And
okay.
I've always wanted to visit up here, so decided this would be a good time with the picnic that Pete's doing here.
I'm so glad that you decided to come up. A little cold for you, huh?
That's nice. It's nice compared to what we have.
It's I don't do well in the heat and humidity, and I know that a lot of people that are down south prefer that, and coming up here might be a little bit of a shock to your system, but I'm so glad that you made the trip.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it. It's a great day, and really enjoying it.
What do you think about all of the work that Pete's done over the years?
I think it's fantastic. The fact that these people that didn't have anything really to do with the land.
Yes.
Pete and all his people, decided to go in there and restore it.
Yes.
it just I really appreciate it. And I know my family, the Schmidts that live in Texas now, everybody really appreciates it. That somebody's taking an interest in keeping the cemetery and improving it. Too bad somebody didn't think about it 40, 50 years ago.
A lot's been lost that can't be recovered, but I think that in especially the last 4 and 5 years, tremendous strides have been made toward preservation and also reconstruction of the cemetery.
Yeah, and just cleaning it up and making sure that it's not vandalized anymore. That's
Don't worry about that. I don't want it to whack you in the head.
It's nice knowing that somebody is watching after it. We're 99% sure that my great grandparents are buried there. We don't have the official documentation, but family history all says that they're buried there. They owned a plot there, and so it's nice knowing that somebody's taking an interest in preserving their final resting place.
You have an amazing photograph with you. If you could show that. Phil's also filming today. Where's the filmer?
Where's the best place to put it?
Probably right there.
Okay.
So in this photograph, it looks like 2 or 3 generations of your family.
It's 2 generations of my family.
2 generations?
The picture shows Frederick and Marguerite Schmidt,
yes,
who were my great grandparents.
Yes.
And they're 9 of their 10 kids. They had
9 of their 10 children.
They had 10 children. And one of the little ones down here, I'll show my camera. That guy right there is my grandfather.
That's your grandfather.
My grandfather. He was born there in 1885.
Wow.
And grew up there, and until 1915, I think, is when he got married and moved off the land there. So he was there almost till he was 30 years old.
Wow. Now the house, we have a white wood frame, looks like a clapboard farmhouse in the background.
Right.
And you told me that you believe that that's actually the home that stood on the foundation that's still there in the preserve today.
As far as we know, my family always said they had a farm, at Bachelors Grove.
Yes.
The property records show that obviously that it was owned by the Schmidt family. And based on that and the location of the foundation that's there now, that should be the house.
That's amazing.
That picture, the original pictures, been passed from generation to generation in my family, and always has the notation that's the family farmhouse at Bachelors Grove.
Absolutely gorgeous. I'm sort of a photo geek myself, so I look at that and I start to salivate. Not only that I enjoy history so much, but the construction of the home and the arrangement of the family and the period dress. It's a treasure, and thank you so much for sharing that with all of us.
Back then, a picture was a really important thing.
Yes.
It's not like everybody's snapping pictures today,
Yeah, we've had, 15 people come through since we've been doing this interview?
Right, and so, it was a big deal. And, they're probably, and they would get prints of that picture and pass them out to all the relatives as different uncles and aunts of mine have passed away, and they've got, my cousins have gone through the belongings. We'll find an original print of this picture.
Wow.
Of that picture, we have like 4 or 5 prints backed, on the cardboard backing from that time period, and we have tons of family pictures that are that way that were passed around or prints made and given out at the time. So it's real interesting. I really like old photography also. That's just something I'm fascinated with.
Well, it's an absolute treasure. I also am privileged enough to have some from that same time period, as well as some old tintypes that were passed down.
Yeah.
And certainly my family doesn't have the same rich history and grassroots that you have here in this area. But again, a treasure, and I hope that future generations view it as such.
I hope so. That's why I'm really getting into genealogy and trying to collect all these old pictures, and came up here just to learn more because I want to pass it on to my kids, and so that their future generations, will have a foundation to where their family came from and at a time that just doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, yes. So you met Pete online?
Correct. When I started getting into genealogy, doing research, probably about 10 years ago, and that was about the time the internet started springing up in Google.
Yes.
And we had always heard about the family farm at Bachelors Grove in the family stories, and Googled it and came up with Pete's website.
Yes.
And boom. And so I got a lot of good information from that, and started sending emails back and forth, and now we correspond. I send him pictures and stuff whenever I come across anything, and if he comes across anything related to my family, he'll send me an email and a copy of the record, and I feel like I've known him a long time.
Yeah.
But today is really the
first time you met him.
that I met him face to face. Yeah.
That must have been an amazing feeling to actually be researching your own family and come across somebody who also was doing the same thing that wasn't related to you.
Correct. Yeah. Just hey, these people are writing about my family. What's that's cool. Hey, it's really interesting that that somebody else did, and who knows why it comes about, but I'm glad it did, and it's something that I think we kind of both feel the same way about the history,
Yes.
and wanting to preserve it for future generations.
It must also be sort of, I think surreal is the word that I'm looking for you in your journey, learning about your family and learning about what you're referring to as the old farmstead, and to see it in so many different types of media. I mean, it really has been written about quite a bit.
Yeah.
How has that been for you?
It is a weird feeling, that people, for whatever reason, are so drawn to that cemetery. Yeah, I guess surreal is the best word. It's just why that place, and why my family, Although my family's just a small part of the whole cemetery and the Bachelors Grove area, and they weren't a big, prominent family, but they did own the land around there. But yeah, it's very, very, interesting that so many people are interested in. And
they're in love with it, Steve.
Yeah,
it's like a romance for so many of us.
Yeah, and the whole paranormal thing, it's just I find very interesting, very interesting. And
what would you like to see for the future of the cemetery and the property?
I think right now, if to be kept as it is right now today, I think that would be the best thing. I don't think you could go back and restore it to the way it was in the late 1800s or early 1900s. But if you could keep it from deteriorating anymore and being torn up anymore, and leave it as a cemetery, because there are it's the final resting place of a lot of people, and leave it there for the public to enjoy, and come out and for whatever reason they like, come out there and enjoy it.
Thank you so very much for being gracious and sharing a very personal part of your life with us, Steve, and also being so gracious and willing to share that with anybody that wants to come and enjoy it.
No,
I thank you.
You're welcome. Glad to do it. Glad to do it. Glad to do it. Glad to do it.